This is Thunderwave, the muscle car of BashBots and the loudest robot here. An internal combustion engine powers that blade. It is a rescue saw, meant to cut through cars, concrete and railroad ties. It spins at 150 miles per hour. It runs on 100-octane race car fuel. Everybody, and welcome back to BashBots. I am your host, Dominus Ignis, and alongside me is the damn Beaver. We've been on a roller coaster this season with upsets and impressive new robots, and there's plenty more coming your way tonight.
Tonight, we hope you like your barbecues because the stakes have been raised. If you've already lost one bout this season, your next fight could be make or break, as we are already beginning to see robots take to the arena for the second time. If you won your first fight, like several of the robots we're seeing tonight, the chance to go 2-0 will be absolutely crucial for getting into the playoffs. There's so much on the line tonight, so let's take a look at the fight card.
As usual, 5 robot bashing fights make up the card. First up, Atlas and Catch will face off in the arena, both in search of their second win of the season. After that, the Season 2 champion Polis returns to the arena for their first fight of the season. They will be taking on Ace 5, and both robots will be looking to make a statement. After that, in the Midway Major, 2 more 1-0 robots will face off as Thunderwave and Ryukashin look to continue their paths to the bracket. It's a high-stakes fight for the 4th fight of the night, as we see a rumble between Dynamite, Vertically Unchallenged and Skull Cruncher. All 3 robots lost their first battle, so another loss here could mean the end of their championship hopes. For the main event, 2 stars from the opening night of the season step back into the BashBots as Tenderlove and Panther will battle it out for a chance to go 2-0. Let's get into our first fight.
Well, I'm sure I don't need to tell any of you, but the beauty about the Fight Night format is just seeing winning robots coming back into the arena for the 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th time. And we are starting off tonight with a brilliant example for that, as we are seeing Atlas versus Catch v4. Atlas. It's the 3rd place finisher from Season 3, and, well, we all know how good it was then, right? And sure, it's been completely redesigned. It's now got a 6-wheel drive, which, I mean, if you have more wheels, you have more power, right? We saw how good of a driver Freeman is in the first fight against ETA, where it completely dominated it, winning the judge's decision with ease. And now it's quite clear to see that it's got one of the best drivers in the competition.
Catch is no slouch. Their first fight over Cyberstorm was one with an impressive out of the arena flip, showing that Catch is perfectly capable in driving in its own right. The builder Ellie has stated that they're not incredibly confident going into this, as they know how good Freeman is as a driver. It's a long shot, but I think Catch might be a dark horse in this one.
As I said, this is set to be a very good fight, and I can't wait to see it go down. Let's get down to the arena.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? It's robot fighting time! Let's bring out the bots! In the red square! From the United Kingdom, the type of cat that ends up locked in an animal shelter pen for 20 years, it's Catch! In the blue square, from Wales! It's not actually from Wales, it's Atlas!
So, my strategy for this fight will be somewhat similar to my first fight, in which is try and get around the sides, which are not as low to the ground as the forks or wedge in front. Just try and get under, hold it on the top until a good opportunity to flip. Out of the arena would be great, but into the screws or anything damaging is another good bet. Just don't really let it get under me. If it gets under me, I'm pretty much screwed. It's a very controlling robot, and I don't want it to give it the opportunity to be able to do any of that thing.
Catch is really well driven. I reckon if it goes the distance, it will be a very close fight. Strategy-wise, lift them over, get them in the drums, maybe the pit. We'll see, but it's going to be unpredictable, I reckon.
So Catch already making its second appearance this season. They were so impressive in their first fight, so they've been rewarded with the defending third place in Atlas, who in turn has beaten ETA. One of these robots is going to get to go 2-0.
I am a test subject for your company, Freeman.
Well, if we had this matchup in seasons past, I would have been very confident in saying that Atlas would be the more controlled, the more precise, and just the more well-measured in general. But Catch in its first fight looked very clever, and it's looking to build some momentum this season with a big fling there on Atlas too.
Yeah, and those front claws of the cat there, those are really low to the ground. Atlas can find its way underneath, but when you are underneath, there's a lot more that front hinge flipper can do than the little lifts of Atlas as it gets launched into the grinder. Atlas, a robot we basically haven't seen properly lose yet. We've only ever seen them defeated by Cosmo in the semi-finals of the previous season, a match that they were winning quite handily until a driving error put their wheel in direct course of Cosmo's vertical spinner, and they may have gone out of the arena as well. But this is a match where we may see Atlas truly outdone if Catch can keep up that momentum, but right now they very much aren't doing, and Atlas has found its footing.
This is a very, very good fight so far. A minute played, Catch started well, and Atlas since then has been really good at smothering in those corners, knocking it into the grinders, charging it into the wall, just casually toppling it and lifting it in general. And now, with a minute 30 to play, we have got a very enticing remainder of this fight.
Yes, I certainly have no doubt whichever of these robots climbs to 2-0 we will be seeing in the bracket stage of BashBots later on. I think it's very likely that both of these robots might be able to make it based on their current form, but this is a wonderfully tight and even match!
Oh, wow!
That's perhaps the greatest heights we'll ever see from an Atlas attack, a lift into the grinder, full back first. That's a marvellous attack.
Such a classic Atlas setup to execute it as well, just spun and got in behind, kept it in place with its weaponry, then drove forwards. The end result was incredible. The setup was classic Atlas, and with 50 to play here, that Atlas professionalism seems to be overall taking its toll here on Catch.
Feels like a distant memory where we were discussing the idea of Atlas losing at all. Again, it's such a rare sight in general. Credit to Catch for getting that early lead, but it sure is gone now, isn't it?
It's just that more blocky, bulky shape of Catch that seems to be toppled and awkwardly knocked over more often than not here, while Atlas remains grounded and in control. 15 to play. Can Catch do something incredible late on, or will it be more Atlas control and clever and cuteness?
Well, with 5 seconds left, I think that's all we can ask for. One more flip from Atlas. That was a story of two halves with another half chucked on the end. Atlas, what a comeback. We'll take a look at some of that early good performance from Catch, of course. Those flips, they certainly would in most cases be some of the most meaningful attacks of the match, even when the control bot takes the lead. Atlas was just fortunate that it was able to complete some very big attacks of its own, like the headlong rush into the grinder and controlled movements like this one. What a brilliant display from Atlas, but not a bad one from Catch either.
results from the judges are in. We have a unanimous decision. And the winner is... Atlas!
And Atlas moves on to a very nice 2-0. Meanwhile, 8 of Catch's lives have run out as it falls to 1-1.
Next up, we've got an exceptional fight here as Polis takes on Ace 5. Now, I know what you're thinking, Beaver, but listen, hear me out on this one. I actually think that Ace 5 has a chance in this. The robot has been completely redesigned this season so that the flipper is much more powerful. And while yes, they only made it to the round of 32 last season, this was from facing Thunderwave, which, as we found, is a pretty good robot. And they did have a shocker of a win against Firewave. Again, maybe it's a long shot, but I feel like Ace 5 has potential here to pull off the biggest shocker of the entire season.
Well, I can't deny, I do definitely love some upsets, but it's Polis. It's the Season 2 champion, and it's only ever lost to Sparks. The drive system has been upgraded since last year. Kroger does want to make up for his failures from last season, and that drive in itself is more than enough for Polis to take the win here. Although, I'd be happy to be proven wrong.
Let's head on down to the arena to watch this David versus Goliath battle in action.
Polis, perhaps the most successful flipper that BashBots has ever seen. Mars is our reigning champion, of course, but Polis has won it once before. Unlucky not to go the distance in the previous occasion.
Well, if seasons past are anything to go by, Polis usually starts off strong and looking very, very confident for the rest of the season. Will Ace 5 give us something to think about here, or will it be business as usual for the green and black machine? Good fling from Polis.
Certainly Ace 5 in seasons past, they showed no real confidence whatsoever. They did manage to make it to the round of 32 through some unlikely little wins, but Polis is one heck of an opener they've been rewarded for.
That's an interesting one, this. Polis isn't quite used to these fast-paced, swervy driving encounters against fellow flippers, but it's adapting well to the potential challenge so far here. And it has been all it so far in terms of flips and flings. 50 seconds gone, and Ace 5 could be gone here too! Not quite, but danger there for it.
Getting very bruised and banged up. You don't want to hit those arena hazards in a flipper-on-flipper match, because as we always say, those damage points have to be attributed to somebody in the event of a judge's decision. You have to imagine Polis would be therefore slightly ahead, but they're also just kind of confidently winning all the others without doubt, really. This is a marvellous display from Polis. They can't quite line up with the arena corner, but they can still get a beautiful flip in anyway.
This is reminding me so far of most of the Tenderlove and Mulsanne fight, where the robot that was not exactly getting attacks in was remaining active and buzzing around, but at the end of the day, most of the attacks went somewhere. Oh! Well, I was gonna say that is there gonna be potential for Ace 5 to pull off a late turnaround? Evidently not. Polis out of the arena flip, and Polis through.
Well, there we go. Ace 5 disappearing out of sight with that one. They certainly hung on in there. They got plenty of airtime, the much smaller machine. The flipper of Ace 5 not to be slept on by any means, but the flipper of Polis understandably seen as perhaps the best that BashBots has ever seen. And they are showing us exactly why, showing I'll deal with these somewhat mid-tier flippers, and then I'm coming for Mars later on. I'll take the crown. Best flipper, best champion, and they take the first win of the season.
And winning by an impressive out of the arena knockout, Polis has once again shown why it is one of the most feared robots in BashBots.
And moving on to the third fight, we have a clash between two fan favourites, and they're only on 1-0. Thunderwave. We saw how much of a monster it was last season. We saw how well it fought against Gold Cruncher, tearing both of the wheels off. it's still the monster it always was. And yes, sure, it's unchanged. It might have been struggling from some drive issues in the pre-season testing, but Ouz is such a good builder. I think he knows what to fix. I think that has been fixed. I think this is Thunderwave's fight to win.
Honestly, I do have a soft spot for Thunderwave as well. It is an impressive robot, but I think Ryukashin is also incredibly exceptional. It might look similar to those of you at home, but it has been completely rebuilt this season. Part of the new generation of robots that have been made in CAD, making it so that it's incredibly well optimized. We've seen what this can do to give a robot a competitive advantage.
I can be sure that this is going to be a great fight, and it's going to be one to remember. Let's get down to the arena and see how it plays out.
The famous Thunderwave making its season debut here. Not their first battle of the season, of course. They did beat Skullcruncher, as did Ryukashin with its win on Tankoff. But now we'll see what it can do.
Well, it's the one-win face-off. It won't remain that way. Somebody has got to lose their lovely start here. And it promises to be a good battle to get to that point to find out who will take the second win.
That self-righting mechanism on Thunderwave looking absolutely huge. Clearly it works. Well, that's a great push from behind on Ryukashin until they go over the kill source.
The way of trying to steady itself as it looks to get its next attack. I just can't stop laughing at that self-rider. It's just such a unique and startling looking thing, but it's Ryukashin that's going to be startled from that, losing a panel, losing a back wheel.
Oh shit, that's a... Sorry, what?
Tries to respond with that front wedge, but wow.
Sure enough, the only thing in this arena bigger than Thunderwave's self-righting mechanism is Thunderwave's spinning bar, which makes a huge contact on the underside of Ryukashin's wedge. That might not be surviving for the whole fight.
Well, I was about to say you can see a clear difference between the health condition of Ryukashin's right and left panels, but the other panel's now gone, so both sides looking as bad as each other, unfortunately. A lot of damage clattering up here. Ryukashin, it's still ticking along, but Thunderwave looking like it's putting together a very professional and destructive opening.
Yes, certainly. In this fight night format, you want to get as many wins as you can. It doesn't matter completely if you lose. Ryukashin could definitely still get through. But if you can go undefeated in these stages, that is going to help your seeding a lot, especially when it's with dominant wins like this. Thunderwave absolutely ripping Ryukashin to shreds to truly show why, once again, it needs to be a high seed of BashBots.
Ryukashin has stopped the bleeding of its armour here as such, and it has come in with a good deflecting attack there, but it's going to have to come in also with a really notable attack in the remaining 45 seconds here. If it wants to turn this one around, it's being boisterous about it at least.
With a bit more distance on Thunderwave, that could have been the one with the pit open. That's certainly not something that Thunderwave is too pleased about. Ryukashin, they're keeping the flipper up to try and deflect Thunderwave away, unless of course the weapon is just broken, but it's actually working not too badly. They're getting a bit more of an angle on where they want to send Thunderwave with the power of its own spinner, but now as they park behind the pit, Thunderwave has no reason to challenge it in the final 10 seconds. They still kind of did anyway. If I were Thunderwave, I'd run off. You've got the judge's decision in the bag, so just take that and, I don't know, have a nice dinner, celebrate, get some wine. You did good. I guess the main thing to analyse here is, now that Ryukashin likely falls to 1-1 on the season, has it done enough against a known veteran like Thunderwave to earn its own spot in the bracket in its own right? It can still get another win after this one and leave the season on a positive record. It leaves with a lot of damage, but I did like the late counterplay with the raised flipper. A bit kamikaze, I'm surprised the weapon stayed on. But Thunderwave did not deflect into the pit in the end, so they will no doubt be taking this judge's decision. Massive self-righting bar and all.
The results from the judges are in. We have a split decision. And the winner is Ryukashin!
Well, sometimes I can accept being wrong. Ryukashin moves to a status 2-0, while Thunderwave is grounded and moves to 1-1.
Next up, we have our first rumble of the season as 3 robots step into the arena. Dynamite, Vertically Unchallenged, and Skullcruncher are all looking to pick up their first win of the night, and only one of them will be victorious. Now Dynamite, while it lost its first fight to Gumdrops, it's got an exceptionally powerful flipper, meaning that it can give just as good as it gets.
Who doesn't want to see Vertically Unchallenged pick up a win here? Look at that big, beefy bar, and just tell me that you don't want to see it punt another robot into the roof. Nathan Silver does think the weapons should be working properly for this fight, and even if he might not be able to self-right, I just can't not go for Vertically Unchallenged here. It's such a beautiful machine.
Now, Skullcruncher lost to Thunderwave in their first fight. However, Autobot Jazz has repaired the frame and the drive system and is hoping that this time the robot will be able to properly function. This means that there's a lot of potential in Skullcruncher that we haven't seen yet. While we've been showering Dynamite and Vertically Unchallenged with praise, Skullcruncher might come out of nowhere and show us that it's a robot to watch.
We can be sure of one thing, and it's not something particularly nice, but these are all on over 1. A loss in this fight means that you're probably out of the competition completely. So with all that riding on this fight, everyone will be driving with such ferocity, you think it's the grand final. Let's get down to the arena.
So 3 robots who lost their opening encounters. One of these guys is really going to need to win this to have a hope of making the bracket. If they do lose here, that may well be it for them.
Well, BashBots melees always have a way of delivering entertainment and thrills, and I don't doubt that this combination will also bring that, as Vertically Unchallenged disappears out of camera shot for the time being. Back in the action now.
The builder has let us know that by running the bar for this fight, they're hoping to cause more damage, but it may be at the cost of self-righting. They haven't tested its ability to self-right with this weapon, whereas the disc would be more reliable for it. It has so far kept them upright, but also hasn't quite done as much damage as you might expect.
Well, it is an interesting dynamic in this fight so far. Oh, that's a really good hit from behind though by Vertically Unchallenged. Big meaty one to the rear of Dynamite, which for the opening period of this fight had been focusing its attention on Skullcruncher, and it might need to again because Vertically Unchallenged has been tipped over. And now it's been knocked back onto its wheels. What a chaotic period of events there.
Yes, Skullcruncher. I really wouldn't have done that if I were you. You kind of need to win this melee if you to have a hope of making the bracket. Skullcruncher, really unfortunate to fight Thunderwave in its very first fight of the season. But this is their opportunity to get a win in now. Dynamite hasn't been able to do a great deal for quite some time. And Vertically Unchallenged is not currently spinning that bar.
Very curious. As you say, Vertically Unchallenged bar looks dormant. Dynamite's flipper looks dormant. And Skullcruncher's weapon isn't dormant, but it's not really getting a bite in at any sort of time in this fight to do something notable. And with a minute or so to play, this is a very curious way of closing this one out. There's the flipper though from Dynamite, finally.
Yes, it's shown that it can work, but can it aim the thing? There's a little flick on Skullcruncher. It's worth remembering that Dynamite did have a good opening start to this
Vertically
fight.
Unchallenged is now on its back, but still moving. What is happening out here? I told you this would provide thrills and entertainment. I didn't exactly know it would be like this, but
It's
it was
giving one of
inevitable.
those two, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Thrills not so much, but entertainment, it's there and around.
Oh
that way,
my
especially in
goodness me,
Dynamite.
what a reversal from Dynamite! But now it's been deflected into the pit! I thought it escaped the danger, it hadn't, and now it's lost! Just like that, flick of the switch, and now one of these two, the inactive weapon, and the weapon that's not really done anything, and it's flipped itself over now, is going to take the win here!
Yes, well, there's some damage. I was going to say, we're already going to have to mark Vertically Unchallenged down on damage because of that disabled weapon. Skull Cruncher is relatively fine. I don't know if I wanted to attribute it any damage points until they tore away that side panel of Vertically Unchallenged, and that may have to do for them. That is close.
Pick the bones out of that one. Oh my.
So to open the fight, we mainly saw attacks from Dynamite dictating the pace. They had a bit of an early lead, whilst Vertically Unchallenged's weapon was still active, largely to their detriment. That is some aggression from Skull Cruncher, but ultimately most of the match went by without them causing any direct damage from that drum. It was only a late bit of damage to the side panel of Vertically Unchallenged. But the key thing is, Vertically Unchallenged has a KO to its name.
The results from the judges are in. We have a unanimous decision. And the winner is Vertically Unchallenged.
I never thought I'd be saying these words together, but Vertically Unchallenged has won by judges' decision, meaning that they are now 1-1. As usual before the main event, we're going to give you a rundown on what else has happened in the tournament. First up, Wither returned to the arena, but not with Mike Ronick. His new egg beater robot Wishbone faced off against the rookies of Avalanche hailing from China with their vertical spinner. It was a fairly back and forth fight, but the damage built up on Avalanche to the point where the robot got stuck in forward drive in the dying seconds of the fight. Wishbone took the judge's decision.
After that, Soda and his vertical spinner Goldeneye took on Hoppin with his hammer saw Gumicho. The hammer saw proved to have the lower wedge early in the fight, but they weren't able to do any damage to Goldeneye. Once the vertical spinner started to rip up the forks, they obviously found it much easier to control Gumicho, taking the judge's decision.
In Fight 3, the Seaborg brought his new lifter robot Siren. He faced off against BattleBots Boy and his shell spinner Spinning Mayhem. Unfortunately for Spinning Mayhem, they were not able to self-right and were quickly flipped over. After being saved several times and after taking down the sponsor sign, they got stuck on their side and were counted out with 20 seconds left in the fight.
Finally, another robot from China and Devastation faced off against Tibbles and his front hinge flipper robot Bad Language. After a hard-fought battle from both sides, it ended up going to the judges, where Bad Language managed to put a split decision, probably prompting some bad language from Devastation as well, but that's not important. Let's get back to the action for our main event.
It's time for our main event, and what a main event it is. Tenderlove versus Panther. Both are 1-0, but both are looking to have an incredible second victory. This Beaver, I think we're both in agreement this is going to be an exceptional match right here. Tenderlove at this point, regardless of if it wins or loses, I would say is practically the people's champion. It's very good. It won its first fight against Mulsanne, though incredibly close one. And while the build and Neroli does lack a bit of confidence in regards to their wedge compared to Panther, I actually disagree. I feel that Tenderlove has got one of the greatest wedges in BashBots, and I think with that and their great, exceptional driving ability, Tenderlove is going to take this one.
I think it's a 50-50 split, but someone has to play devil's advocate here as much as I love Tenderlove. We saw how much of an aggressive driver Panther is when they were fighting Liberator earlier on in the season, and they just never left the Liberator alone at all. They showed so much durability, they showed so much aggression. Tenderlove is definitely going to struggle to get the room it needs to deliver a proper attack. I think Panther definitely has a very good stake in this fight, and I also think it's going to be an incredible match to watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event. In the red square, from the UK, it's actually one of those things you see those sliced boiled eggs with. Introducing Tenderlove! In the blue square, from Wales. No wonder they lost the war. It's Panther!
I don't know how good Fred's wedges. I've said in the past that I'm bad at wedging, and its drive is a lot more tight and controllable this year. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel confident.
I'm against a veteran opponent here, veteran driver, so I've got to be really careful with my spin up here, not gyro too much, and he's going to try and keep in control, so I just got to try and counter that as much as possible. Hopefully he doesn't wedge too much. Let's not pray.
Well, Panther will be looking to climb to a 2-0 record and really put the wins behind the name that we've come to love so much, but Tenderlove so rarely drops a fight. Here it is in its main event.
Well, there very rarely is a bad fight in BashBots, and this, on paper, looks like it could be an all-time classic if both robots perform to their high potential. And at the moment, though, it's Tenderlove with the boisterous start of the two.
Panther can't quite get off of that floor flipper. Tenderlove is stuck under the floor flipper.
And stuck in by the floor flipper, and that allows Panther to come in underneath and get in a couple of meaty hits with those big bars of hits, though it is now overturned.
There's a good look at the tank tracks of Panther. We haven't really seen much of them thus far. This new design very well protected and grey, camouflaged almost. Tenderlove right back in from behind, straight towards that high arena wall. Couldn't quite lift in time to try and threaten to get them over it. But instead, Panther's just going to bound about, take more damage to its own spinners until it's eventually back over.
It's been a potential weak area of Panther. They've improved the design this season, the defensive capabilities, but the self-righting has always been rather inconsistent and ineffective, but if it remains on its wheels, it can have periods of the fight where it causes damage, and the last 20 seconds or so for it were much better.
Now this is why Panther does have the option of swapping one of their spinners for a lifting arm. They could even swap both of them for 2 lifting arms if they were feeling suicidal.
Yes.
But they definitely want to do as much damage to Tenderlove as possible, and in fairness they probably do have those, but Tenderlove generally taking everything else. I think it's somewhat fair to say maybe the odd aggression or control points in Panther's favour, especially now. They're actually picking up ahead of steam as soon as I've started that one.
They really are. That's 3 or 4 big little clips in a row there from Panther, just chipping away, nibbling at Tenderlove, which is now largely kind of backing off, trying to find an angle to attack Panther from. It does scoop underneath there, but Panther wriggles free again. But back on top now! And that's a good hurl. And Panther now has to right itself, and quickly again. Oh!
Maybe the arena will take care of that one for us.
Nope.
No, it won't.
Of course it
It
won't.
will be opening up. That's the first moment where Tenderlove can actually run away from Panther and safely press that button. But instead we're going back to this empty corner of the wall. Maybe we could do with some kind of, I don't know, like a hammer maybe would be a good idea here for adding in an extra hazard. But no, that empty corner will instead lead right back into the floor flipper. The arena is definitely playing more in Tenderlove's favour throughout this match, but that is a wheel possibly dislodged from Tenderlove. Maybe it was just loosened.
Right, but it was a worrying moment there for Tenderlove. And it's been a really interesting fight in general, with a late push! Not quite in the pit. That ends a very close fight with a very close call there at the end. What will be the call overall?
Tenderlove, they love their near pittings at the end of a fight. That's twice out of 2 now. But once again, no actual pitting that's going to count. Here's a moment where Tenderlove was not favoured by the arena. They got trapped in there to let Panther get its first proper hit of the match. Once it was free, it was mainly Tenderlove's game until Panther had this quiet little streak. They never had big hits, but there was a consecutive little combo there. It hasn't done a great degree of damage, but certainly Panther is not too damaged itself. Maybe a bit of blunting on the spinners from constantly landing on them all the time. But this works out to a really, really close one. Panther, the more damaging, but Tenderlove, did it dominate the control and aggression, or did it just kind of slightly win them?
The results from the judges are in. We have a split decision. And the winner is Panther!
And winning by judges' decision, Panther is now 2-0. Tenderlove is now 1-1 and now has to try and redeem itself in its next fight. Now, I don't know which way I would have voted, but I have confidence that the judges were certain at the end of the day when they made their final decision.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, we aren't judges. I mean, we don't get paid enough for that.
Wait, what do you mean we get paid? So after their performance tonight, Panther is now sitting at 2-0. What do you make of it?
I think that undoubtedly we are seeing the most vicious Panther ever this season. We haven't seen any of their rubber setups come into play yet, but I think they don't even need them with those incredible dual spinners so far.
Looking at the rest of the night, although they put up a great fight to start with, Catch just wasn't able to keep up with Atlas. Polis has started off their season exactly how they wanted to, with that out of the arena. Ryukashin got their shock win over Thunderwave, and of course we can't forget to mention Vertically Unchallenged finally getting their first win in BashBots. What was your standout performance tonight, Beaver?
I thought that Virus displayed some excellent driving against Thunderwave in their fight. Despite that continuous damage throughout the fight, he was just constantly taking the fight to Thunderwave, and I think that trait will come in very handy down the line.
From all of us here at BashBots, we thank you for watching and we hope to see you next time. Until then, good night.